Hi friends, in the last couple of blogs what we had done is using the college data set we had created an experiment and formalized a hypothesis and used linear regression to basically adjust the salary and based on that we had created a model. Once we had created the model in Azure Machine Learning, we had used the same model and deployed it in the form of a web service. We have been able to successfully do that. Now these web services are pretty easy to consume for any web app or a website, so they can easily be built together and integrated in the system. Now what we are going to see is we are going to answer a very important question. What about an R programmer, someone who is not willing to use Azure ML and is more proficient in R? And what about him? How can he create a web service using the Azure ML? Oh, the answer is of course yes. I mean, Azure ML has evolved at a great heights today, with the latest integration with R version 3.4.1, there is a very good interface between both of these. So what we will be looking at is we will be developing a model in R, and we would be using the same to deploy the model from R into the Azure Machine Learning portal. So what we are trying to achieve is, in the web services, without even creating any experiments or configuring them on AML, what we will be seeing a new web service being added. Now there are a lot of callouts here which I will be talking about as we proceed. So be careful and please pay attention to those. The first important point is the R version. Your R version should be 3.4.1. So let's test the version and later. So as you can see, the R version here is 3.4.1, which is after which the Azure ML package has been built in R. That's the first call out. Next is the R tools. So you would have to install R tools if you do not have them on your machine. So I would suggest just Google it out and have your R tools. I will just tell you, install R tools. So that would pretty much guide you to install R tools, and you should be good with that. The second important part is your WinZip. So basically Azure ML package uses the WinZip to compress and deploy that, so it would be needing that while in processing. If not, if you do not install your zip utility, any of the zip utility on your system, you would be getting a error indicating the same while you are trying to export or while we are trying to deploy or publish the package that we have, the model that we have built in R. So and the second, that was one, the version, the tools, the WinZip should be there. And the third important part, once you have deployed all of these, installed all of these, you would have to add them to your path. So how do we do that? So in the systems security, what we go on the advanced settings, and in the environment variables, you go onto the path and add them. So if you see edit here, you should be seeing the WinZip being added and the R tools bin being added. So do this, and after doing this environment variables to help them get into effect, you would have to restart your computer. Okay, seems we are all good. Next we move on to R. So again we will be using the same data set, and we will be trying to install. So two important packages which you would need is Azure ML and the dev tools. Install that with the version 3.4.1. it should all be good. You would be able to install these two packages, because these are the packages essentially which will help you deploy the model that we are building. So now let's start with setting the directory and importing the data set. So as we had already done this, we are simply trying to import the data set, and then let's check out the data. So this is the data we were talking about so far for last three videos. Next is our regression. We have built the regression model, and with the efficiency of about 85.5% in R, we are able to know its coefficients and intercepts. All good. So let's not get into the model details. Let's try to see let's try to consider that this model is efficient and we want to publish it in the form of a web service. How we can do that? Now in the input data, since our salary is a regressant and the rest of them are the regressors, we will just try to create a data frame minus the regressant or the dependent variable. So let's do that. Cool, we have done that. I'll come to the reason why we have done that. The next important thing is the function. This is one of the most important thing, because essentially this is the function which is on the top of the trained model which we have trained so far. So if you see, the function is having the reg, which is the model that we have built, and it is taking the input data and it is giving a response type. So this function will basically help us predict. So we just run this function, and the next important thing is to check it. Again, we are just checking it on the input data and see if it predicts us the 52 odd values. It is doing that. All good. Next, we import our libraries of Azure ML and Dev tools. So let's do that. Now, before I go to this piece of code, let me switch over to Azure and try to show you something, how we can generate that quickly. So if you're having a model and you are kind of having a data set, just right click on that data set and you should be able to see an option, generate data access code. So, and you have a Python and an R option available. So if you see here, this is an indicator. So if you paste this value, you would be getting the workspace ID, authorization key, and the API endpoint, and it would just be for the data set. I have simply copy pasted that code here, and that's it. So we are using the same here. So the endpoint should be configured. All good. And next is, what we are going to do is the publish statement. So what we are going to do now is the actual part where we are publishing a web service, and we're calling this based on the function. This function is having this code model, and based on, and we're calling this web service as the college salary web service. We should be seeing that as soon as we deploy that, we should be seeing in our web services here. So and the schema is the input schema, wherein we are just going to this web service is going to take the input and spit out the salary for us. So let's publish it. All good. Now let's try to switch over and refresh. There you go. So you have a web service created, published from R, and it has the API key. Now let's just let's just go back to R and again do check for the head. So what you see here is similar to that on Azure. So you see the HTTP endpoint and you see the primary key, which can be used to access so far after this model has been deployed. So let's try to test this. You can see the rest of the values. Let's quickly check. Let's quickly check this and see if it is spitting out the salary for us. Yep. So that's the result returned from this web service. Now the other important thing that I would like to show here is it also creates and helps you configure. Again, you can test the endpoint here. There you go. You can test it here. And the second important part here is, let's take a look at use endpoint. There you go. So what it gives you is the same URL what we have been looking at R once we are dragging the head out of it. So the response and the secondary keys are there, and you also get the code, a sample code which you can use in either of these programming languages if you are developing a web app or you're trying to consume the service. So I mean, excellent way. I did not have to even create an experiment or do anything of that sort. I was directly able to build a model, test it to my satisfaction if I am a programmer and I'm comfortable with R. I hope, I mean, this is amazing stuff for me actually. So I think it's worth a share, and I think that added some value to the audience. Looking forward to hearing from you. Catch you soon on the next set of logistic regression tutorials. Thank you so much.